and welcome. I'm coloring up this really cute Santa image by Lily of the Valley. I've already colored the red because we've been doing a study in red, and this red is the same as all the other reds, so I didn't want to waste a bunch of time there. I wanted to focus our time on some of the details and how to make the fuzz or the fur on his suit look fuzzy and how to make his beard look more like hair than in just kind of a flat thing. So we'll gloss over the red a little bit, but it's the same as the process as all the other videos that are all the other topics that we've talked about in our red study. So where should we start? Let's start with the fuzz. And my favorite fuzz colors are the E40 natural blending group. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to come in here with E40. This is a little bit different than the traditional way we've been taught to color. The first part I'm going to take E40 and I'm going to flick in E40, and you're going to have to be very careful not to catch a little bit of red and drag that into your fuzz. I have done that a time or two and it's really hard to blend out. So this is just E40, and notice I'm doing the whole image. We're going to let this E40 dry, which is the non-traditional part. Usually with copics, we don't want things to dry. But in the shadow parts, which our light source is coming directly on, so the center part is going to be the true white, and then the E40 is going to start representing where the shadow is. So I'm going to cap this, we're going to put this away, and while that's drying, let's go ahead and color his bag. So I'm going to use the E21, 23, 25, and probably 27 here to color this bag up. And it has lots of little folds in it, so we can have some fun with it. Let's see. So down here would be darker, and I mean the focus is not meant to be on the bag. I'm not going to go nuts here, but along the folds I am going to put the darker color. So this is our E27. And we'll probably put a little bit under here where his hand is. We'll connect that there. That looks more natural. And I'm thinking a little bit along the bottom of the ground here. Awesome. So now we'll drop down to our E25 and we'll just start bringing that color down and around. Looks like it's full of something. Do you think it's coal or presents? What do you guys think? Have these kids been naughty or nice? It's hard to know, huh, Santa? I don't know how you do it all. All right, dropping down to E23. So we don't want a big highlight in our bag, so your E23 should be bigger than your other strokes. That is the actual color of the bag. So the E27 and the E25, those are serving as your shadows. E25 is the color of the bag, and now your E21 is your highlight. So now we're pulling that color down. Now I think that's too highlight, so I'm going to come back in with my E23. And I'm helping pull some of that color around. And now I can use my E21 again to drag that color into the highlight, darkening that up a little bit. I'm going to grab my E41, and what we're going to do here is we're going to start making big dots in the part where we made the shadow, and we want them to be big. And it's okay if there's several of them. kind of pouncing all over this area, but we want them to be only in the shadow. And you're not trying to make them rows or stripes. You want them to be kind of random, because your shadows, you're not making a striped Santa. You want it to just be in the shadowed part. But you're kind of flattening your marker against the paper. They look like blobs. Doesn't look like much of anything yet. Just adding some texture, and I can try to hold this up. See, just kind of see what it looks like. All right, so now while that dries, let's use these same colors just to have continuity. And I'm going to color in these birds. I'm not really sure what's going on with that bird. He's got some unusual markings, but so let's start with this bird here. I'm just going to put a little bit of brown. That was with E25. I decided not to use the E27 on the birds. And this is E23. I don't know. You could have made them red, but I didn't want to compete with Santa's suit. And you could have made them blue, but I didn't want to introduce a new color. So this kind of just goes along with our card design, but you could do blue birds. You could do little yellow birds. I suppose that would be fine. I just decided that I didn't want them. They're not, to me, the main part of the image. Santa is. I mean, I want them to be noticed, but not center stage. So I'm just kind of doing all the body parts in those same browns. So now we can put those away because we're done with them. Okay. All right, so continuing on, I think we can go over here with our E42. Now we want to start, we're going to repeat this process with a brush tip, but we are going to make our dots smaller. So one of the things is when you start, you're going to make your hand and it's going to slowly come up, and this is how you make tiny dots. So now I'm making tinier dots than we did before and less of them. And again, only in the shadow part. So you're just kind of, you're adding texture. There should be more in the darker parts of the shadow and less as it trails out. So these are kind of like your medium-sized dots. We had big ones before. And you want this to look uneven. You don't want it to look even. If it looks even, you did something kind of wrong. So it's going to look fake. All right, so there is our E42. So we can put that away. All right, while that is drying, let's get his boots done. And Santa's boots are black. Everybody knows that, right? So we're going to come in here. And this is N9. This is the darkest parts of his shoes. And remember, you can always go back and add more, but you can't take it off. So I'm just starting with a little bit of N9. Now I'm going down to N5. That was N7. And I left a little bit of this shoe at the very bottom. I'm going to go do that with N5. Usually the sole is a slightly different gray than the rest of it, of the shoe. So details, right? And this is N3. And we can go ahead and add a highlight in with our white gel pen. And while we got this out, we might as well do his belt too. So this is N9. And flicking in with N7. N5. Now on a different card in this series, I know I used warm grays. I purposely chose different grays for this just to show that it doesn't really matter. You can choose whatever gray and it will still look okay. This is back to N9. I'm going to do both of his gloves at the same time. Just working my way down. I love how our little Santa's coming together. And the ends blend pretty well together, so they're pretty easy. Over here though, I did notice that there's not super happy with that, so I went back with N5 just to blend out that line. I might do that here too. A weird little, there we go. Okay, so now we have all the black done on Santa. Our fuzz should be dry, so let's go in here with E43. And now again, I'm holding my marker more straight up now because I need to make smaller dots. So you're going to make smaller dots and less of them. I forgot the little top part of his head. This to me is so relaxing. I love this kind of coloring. I love coloring in general, but this kind of coloring is very relaxing to me. Very cool. We're starting to get that texture going. And I'm going to get the yellows out. And I'm going to take Y02. And I'm just going to, should have done this first. I don't want to pull any of that red or black. Kind of just pouncing that on there. And just to make it feel a little bit more like gold, I'm going to take some Y17. Y17 is kind of got a golder color to it, and I can kind of pounce that on a little bit in places. And I'm going to take the Y17 and do this little bird's feet. They need some color. Okay, I think we got that accomplished. Let's also do our snow. It's where I think it's going to be the darkest. I'm just flicking on the BO. And then I'm going to just blend that out with the B000. All right. Now we can go back in with our last fuzz color, the E44, and this one, super tiny dots and very few of them. This is the deepest, darkest shadows of his fluff. So we don't want Santa to look dirty. Just want him to have appropriate amount of style, right? And I'm sorry if my hand's in the way. It really has to be straight up and down. for that. So I think that is the perfect fluff. I love it. He looks appropriately fluffy. Okay, so let's work on his beard. For the beard, I'm going to use C3, C1, and C0. And when you color hair, you always color in the direction that it grows. And to me, I think most people would look at it and say, oh, his mustache is less scary than his beard. So let's start there. So from right where his nose is, I'm going to flick just a few. This is the same thing. The darker the color, the less you should be using it. So I'm just doing a few, probably 2 in each direction here, of little lines here. And you can kind of add a few in here, just little spots, just to make sure it looks like the same. Now I'm going to turn this away from me because I color better that way. And I'm going to put a couple here because he's got hair on the side of his head. And that's the most shadowed. So you could arguably put more in there, but we'll go with that. Then here, I like to put like a V down from where he is, from wherever this point is of the mustache. And then these you're going to curve towards the point. So you're going to kind of put in some curvy ones. And then from the bottom, you're going to curve up. Now with your C3, you're only doing a few. It isn't color the whole beard with C3. If you do that, then you lose the hairy kind of look. This is the shadows that we're putting in. Then we're going to drop down to C1 and we're going to put a couple more in. And these can be a little fatter. Your C3 is going to be very thin. Your C1 is going to be a little thicker. It's also, I think C1's less stressful because it is bigger and you don't have to. C3 is a little goes a long way. So you can always go back and add in more. Remember that. Then you can come in with your C0 and you're going to do the same thing. And now we have a gray beard. How cute is that? I love it. All right, the last thing to do is this present, and we have a finished card. I think I'm going to do the present in green. All right, I'm going to put the card back together and then I'll bounce back to see ya. Okay, well, here's our finished card. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to do the texture in the fur of Santa's fur and also the beard. And I hope you'll check out one of my other videos to see how I did the red. It's exactly the same. And let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you need me to do anything else to help you guys master this technique. Thank you guys for taking the time to learn with me, and I'll see you on the next card.